The white tablecloth gleams under soft lighting at Bellini's, Seattle's most pretentious Italian restaurant. Through the west-facing windows, Puget Sound stretches like a sheet of hammered silver in the evening light. I sip my Cabernet, letting the tannins linger on my tongue while watching my father's performance unfold. Dad raises his glass, his signet ring catching the light. At 58, Thomas Porter maintains the commanding presence of a man accustomed to being listened to. "To my Brielle," he announces, voice carrying just enough to turn heads at nearby tables. Responsible, independent, and a true professional success. Brielle, my 27-year-old sister, sits straighter in her perfectly tailored burgundy blazer. Her smile is practiced perfection, the golden child basking in familiar praise. She tucks a strand of honey-blonde hair behind her ear, a gesture I recognize from childhood when she'd receive another gold star, another trophy, another moment in the spotlight. Dad turns to me, his smile tightening just enough that only I would notice. "Maybe someday you'll get tired of just freelancing from your couch and find a real career." The words land like a slap. 4 years of building my business, countless 16-hour days, shipping orders until my hands cracked from cardboard cuts and packing tape, all dismissed in a single sentence. I set my wine glass down, the stem fragile between my fingers. Then I guess Brielle doesn't need my $3,500 support anymore. Silence drops over our table. Brielle freezes, wine glass suspended halfway to her lips. Dad's fork clatters against fine china. The Merlot in his glass trembles. "What are you talking about?" Dad demands, voice suddenly sharp. "The monthly transfers." I pull out my phone, open the banking app. I've been sending Brielle $3,500 every month for the past 2.5 years. Dad's eyes dart between us. That would be over $100,000. $105,000 to be exact. I slide the phone across the table, showing the transaction history. So Brielle could maintain the illusion of success. What illusion? Dad's voice rises. A couple at the next table glances our way. Her actual salary is $52,000 as a store supervisor at Nordstrom. Not the $80,000 plus assistant manager position she claimed. I look directly at Brielle. "Isn't that right?" Brielle's perfect composure cracks. Her lower lip trembles. "Kelsey, please." Dad's face transforms. Confusion bleeds into disbelief, then hardens into shame. He stares at Brielle as if seeing a stranger. "Is this true?" She doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. 4 years ago, I started Cascade Trail Outfitters from my 2-bedroom apartment in Tacoma. I packed eco-friendly hiking gear on my living room floor, used my kitchen table as a shipping station. My friends thought I was crazy. My family thought I was wasting my college degree. Last year, my little hobby brought in $620,000 in revenue, with $320,000 profit. I still drive my 2018 Subaru Forester. I still shop at discount stores. Every extra dollar goes back into the business. And every family dinner includes some version of, "When will you get a proper job?" I remember Mom's voice when I was 8, explaining why she'd miss my school play for Brielle's dance recital. "Your sister needs more attention, you understand, right?" I did understand, just like I understood when I helped Brielle buy her college textbooks, just like I understood when I covered her first apartment security deposit, just like I understood when she called crying about credit card debt 2.5 years ago. I've spent a lifetime supporting others while accepting undervaluation. I've enabled Brielle's fantasy while hiding my own success. Not anymore. Brielle's tears start right on schedule. The familiar manipulation tactic that worked on our parents, on teachers, on boyfriends, on me. "Please don't cut me off, Kelsey," she whispers. "My rent's due Friday." I open my banking app again, navigate to recurring transfers. Then it's time you start living like someone who earns $52,000, not $150,000. I tap cancel recurring transfer and hold up the phone so they can both see the confirmation. Dad watches in stunned silence as 30 years of family dynamics shift before his eyes. "You've been lying to us," Dad finally says to Brielle, his voice hollow. "Not lying, exactly." Brielle's mascara smudges beneath her eyes. "Just stretching the truth." "While stretching my bank account," I add. Dad turns to me, confusion etched in the lines around his eyes. "Why would you do this? Give her this money while letting us believe that I'm the failure and she's the success?" I smile without humor. "Good question. One I've been asking myself for 2.5 years. I stand, dropping my napkin beside the untouched tiramisu. I should go. I have a shipment of hiking poles arriving tomorrow. My little freelance job, you know? The restaurant seems quieter as I walk away, as if everyone can hear the glass house of lies shattering behind me. Later that night, my key fob clicks as I lock the Subaru. The parking lot concrete glistens with fresh rain, Seattle's perpetual gift. Inside my apartment, I kick off my boots and drop my bag on the kitchen counter. The tiramisu I'd been looking forward to all week remains uneaten, a $12 casualty of tonight's family implosion. The clock on my microwave reads 9:17. Too early for bed, too late to pack orders. My mind refuses to settle after the restaurant scene. I wander into my home office, the converted second bedroom of my apartment where Cascade Trail Outfitters began. I sink into my desk chair and open my laptop. The Excel file labeled Porter Family Support stares back at me. 2.5 years of transfers, each one a $3,500 monthly reminder of my inability to say no. My fingers hover over the keyboard. A few clicks and I'm scrolling through Brielle's Instagram page. The evidence I've deliberately ignored floods the screen. March 2023. Brielle posing outside Nordstrom's employee entrance. Caption: Big promotion day. Assistant manager. Career goals. Making moves. April 2023. Champagne flutes clink together at the Nest rooftop bar. When your bonus hits just right. Work hard, play hard. Seattle sunset. June 2023. Close-up of a Gucci purse. Treat yourself, boss lady. Worth it. The dates align perfectly with my bank transfers. Each celebration, each purchase, each career milestone, funded by money I earned packing hiking backpacks until my shoulders ached. I navigate to my email, search, Brielle plus help. The original message appears, dated the 17th of January 2023. Kelsey, I hate asking this, but I'm drowning. Credit card debt hit $18,000 and I'm 2 months behind on rent. I'll lose my apartment. Just need help for a few months until I get my finances straight. Please don't tell Dad. Love you, B. A few months. The phrase burns in my chest. I remember the phone call that followed. Brielle sobbing about predatory interest rates, promising to create a budget, swearing she'd pay me back. My phone buzzes with a text notification. Brielle, you've ruined everything. I can't believe you humiliated me like that. I toss the phone onto my desk. The screen lights up again. Brielle, call me. We need to figure this out before my rent is due. I ignore it and pull up a folder of credit card statements Brielle sent me when requesting that first loan. The spending pattern jumps out now. Restaurants, clothing stores, weekend trips to Portland and Vancouver. Not the spending of someone in temporary trouble, but someone living beyond their means by design. After my first transfer, her spending didn't decrease. It escalated. Spa weekends, designer purses, Sunday brunches at rooftop restaurants, while I ate peanut butter sandwiches between packing orders. My chest tightens as the full picture comes into focus. The deception wasn't a spontaneous lie. It was a calculated, long-term strategy. Dad's voice echoes in my mind. Responsible, independent, and a true professional success. The same words he's used at family gatherings for years, while glancing at me with barely disguised disappointment. Dad, the enabler. Brielle, the deceiver. The perfect team, reinforcing a family mythology where appearance trumps reality. I open another folder on my desktop. Business expansion. Inside, a detailed plan for taking Cascade Trail Outfitters international. Shipping costs to Canada and the UK. Website translation services. Inventory increases. Marketing and foreign currencies. The projected cost for Phase 1, $35,000. Almost exactly what I would have sent Brielle over the next 10 months. This isn't cruel, I whisper to the empty room. It's necessary for both of us. For the first time in my adult life, I consider what might happen if I invested fully in my own success instead of smoothing family dynamics. The thought feels foreign, almost forbidden. My phone rings. Martha, my business mentor. I hesitate before answering. Kelsey, you okay? You never leave our Tuesday check-ins early. Family emergency. The words taste bitter. About Brielle? Martha asks. I sit straighter. How did you know? Honey, I've wondered for years how she afforded that lifestyle on a retail salary. The math never added up. The validation from someone outside the Porter family hits me like a physical force. Martha continues. Want some company? I've got a bottle of that Pinot Noir you like. Before I can answer, the doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Sarah, my friend since college, holding a bottle of wine and wearing her emergency support visit face. I open the door. How did you know? Sarah hugs me. You sent a period after fine in your text. Dead giveaway. An hour later, Sarah and I sit cross-legged on my living room floor, business spreadsheets surrounding us like fallen leaves. She points to a figure on my international shipping projection. So, with the money you're not sending Brielle, you could fund this entire Canadian expansion by December? And still have enough to hire a virtual assistant for the logistics. The possibilities unfurl before me, exciting and terrifying all at once. You've been the shadow investor in her lifestyle, Sarah says. Now you can invest in yourself. 3 weeks later, I interview virtual assistants, while a stack of unopened envelopes sits on my desk. One from Brielle, I can't make rent. 2 voicemails from Dad. The first angry, the second confused, the third tentatively curious about my online store thing. I hire Melissa, a logistics specialist in Portland with experience in international shipping. The first packages to Vancouver leave my warehouse the following Monday. That night, I work until midnight, both liberated and grieving. Freedom carries its own kind of pain. But as I tape the final box closed, I realize the weight on my shoulders is only inventory now, not family expectations. The path ahead feels right, even as it diverges from the familiar pattern of sacrifice that defined my first 30 years. My phone pings with an email notification. From Brielle. Subject: We need to talk. I set the phone down without opening it and return to packing orders for customers who value what I create. 3 days later, my phone buzzed for the 5th time this morning. Aunt Susan's name flashes on the screen. I silence it and drop the phone on my desk, returning to the shipping manifest that actually deserves my attention. That's the 3rd family member today. Sarah notes from where she's labeling boxes. My friend volunteered to help with the unexpected surge of repetitive orders from Vancouver. Brielle's been busy. Calling everyone with the tragic tale of her financial abandonment, I stack another box on the pile. Classic Brielle. Cat. The emails started after the restaurant confrontation, distant relatives expressing concern about my troubling behavior. By week's end, Brielle had crafted a narrative worthy of a daytime soap opera, a struggling sister cruelly cut off during difficult times by a heartless, jealous sibling. Uncle Robert texted about family supporting family. Cousin Jessica called to remind me that Brielle has always been there for you. News to me. Considering she borrowed my car for a weekend getaway in 2019 and returned it with an empty tank and a cracked windshield. The doorbell rings. Sarah peeks through the blinds and turns to me with wide eyes. It's your dad. My stomach clenches. Tell him I'm not home. Your car's in the driveway. I wipe my hands on my jeans and open the door. Dad stands there in his pressed golf shirt, looking uncomfortable on my modest porch. We need to talk about your sister. Bye. I step aside to let him in. I'm in the middle of packing orders. His eyebrows lift as he takes in the stacks of boxes, the shipping labels, the inventory organized across my dining table. This is more professional than I expected. He touches a hiking pole with a finger. You sell these? And manufacture them. Sustainable bamboo core, recycled aluminum tips. I don't mention the 3 patents, or the feature in Outdoor Enthusiast last month. He wanders through the maze of products. Brielle says you're being unreasonable. Does she? I seal another box with practiced efficiency. Did she explain what she was doing with $3,500 a month while earning $52,000? She has obligations. Like what? The Audi payments? The designer purses? The weekend trips to Portland with her friends from the country club? Dad flinches. She says she'll be homeless if you don't help. She'll need to downsize, not sleep under a bridge. I print another label. There's a difference between helping someone and enabling them. After he leaves, I call Martha, my business mentor. The UK distributor is in, she announces when she answers. They want your entire winter line. My heart races. For real? 30% more than we projected. Her voice brims with excitement. This means you can lease that warehouse space we looked at. Without Brielle's $3,500 draining my accounts each month, the business has exploded. International orders from Canada arrived first. then Australia. 3 weeks ago, I hired Jenna to manage customer service and Ben to handle shipping logistics. I signed the warehouse lease the following Tuesday. That afternoon, I arrive home to find Brielle sitting on my doorstep. Her makeup is smeared, her eyes red. She springs to her feet when she sees me. Finally, I've been waiting for hours. Her voice carries down the street. Mrs. Donaldson from next door pauses while watering her flowers. I have a key in my purse, I say quietly, unlocking the door. You're ruining my life. Brielle follows me inside, voice escalating. I had to sell 3 of my purses. The bank called about my car payments. Lower your voice. Why should I? You don't care that I might lose everything. My apartment, my car. I didn't create this situation. I set my laptop bag down carefully. I just stopped enabling it. You think you're so perfect with your little business. Brielle's voice cracks. Dad always said I was the successful one. You're just jealous. Success isn't what you buy, I say, the words flowing with unexpected calm. It's what you build. Easy for you to say when you're making all that money. She gestures wildly at my modest apartment. While I'm suffering. You make $52,000 a year, Brielle. That's more than millions of Americans. Your suffering is self-inflicted. She storms out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. 2 hours later, her Instagram shows a post about toxic family members who don't understand financial hardship. 3 days later, Sarah stops by with takeout and her laptop. You need to see this. She opens a folder of screenshots. Brielle's social media history from the last 2 years. The posts tell 2 stories. Public declarations about financial independence and career success alongside snapshots of luxury purchases that appeared right after my monthly transfers. The timestamp on this promotion celebration dinner? 2 hours after you sent her money last August. Sarah scrolls through image after image. My phone rings. Martha. Turn on your email right now, she says. REI wants a meeting. They're interested in carrying Cascade Trail products in their flagship stores. Holy shit, Sarah whispers, reading over my shoulder. We're halfway through a bottle of champagne when my phone rings again. Dad, I've been looking at your website, he says without preamble, and I called that outdoor magazine that featured you. I brace myself for criticism. You make more in a year than I did in 5. The admission hangs between us. I don't fill the silence. I'd like to see your operation, he says finally. Your real operation, not just the boxes in your dining room. The next day, I give him a tour of the new warehouse. He studies the inventory system, asks about profit margins, examines the manufacturing contracts. I didn't understand, he admits as we stand among pallets of hiking gear. I thought real businesses needed office buildings and dozens of employees. I valued what I recognized. He pauses near a wall of international shipping labels. I also didn't understand my role in enabling Brielle's deception. His voice quiets. Or how I dismissed what you built. That night, I create a folder on my laptop. Inside, I place sales reports showing 340% growth since cutting off Brielle's support. Photos of the warehouse. Profiles of my new employees. A parallel folder contains screenshots of Brielle's lifestyle changes, the Toyota replacing her Audi, the scaled-back social posts, the sudden interest in budget-friendly fashion finds. My email pings with a new message from Dad. Subject line. Important family matters to discuss. Thanksgiving at my house. My finger hovers over the accept button as I consider what awaits. The phone lights up, Brielle's name on the caller ID. I stare at it, calculating the cost of answering versus the peace of letting it ring. On Thanksgiving, the scent of roasting turkey fills Dad's house, mingling with cinnamon and sage. I adjust the green bean casserole on the crowded counter, watching Mom fuss over the marshmallow topping on sweet potatoes. Some traditions never change, even when everything else has. Kelsey, would you check if we need more ice? Dad calls from the dining room where he's arranging place settings with military precision. I open the freezer, wondering which version of my father I'll see today, the one who praised Brielle blindly for years, or the one who called last week asking genuine questions about my business margins. The front door opens, and conversations pause. Brielle arrives, 40 minutes late as usual, but something's different. Gone is the Audi she leased last spring. Instead, through the window, I spot a used Toyota with peeling bumper stickers. Her camel coat lacks the designer label she normally flaunts, and her purse isn't the Italian leather she showcased on Instagram last month. Sorry I'm late, she announces, kissing the air beside Aunt Margaret's cheek. Her eyes scan the room, landing on me with calculated precision. Traffic was terrible. Dad watches our interaction carefully, his eyes narrowing when Brielle hugs me with exaggerated affection. Kelsey, you look great. Business must be booming. I return the hug without comment. I canceled that transfer. And the physical changes in Brielle's appearance tell stories her words don't. We gather around the table, platters steaming between autumn-colored candles. Uncle Robert carves the turkey, while Aunt Margaret distributes wine with generous pours. Conversation flows around football predictions and Cousin Jenny's college applications. Before we eat, Brielle raises her glass, commanding attention with practiced ease. I want to say how grateful I am for family. Her voice carries the same cadence she used when accepting academic awards in high school. During hard times, we support each other. That's what family does. Her eyes settle meaningfully on me. The message couldn't be clearer if she'd written it on a billboard. Dad clears his throat. Yes, family support is important. Speaking of which, Brielle, how's work going? She dabs her napkin against perfect lipstick. Actually, there might be changes coming. The retail sector is unstable right now, and there's talk about layoffs. The dramatic pause that follows would make soap opera directors proud. Her gaze slides to me again, expectant. That's odd, Dad says, his fork suspended midair. I called your manager at Nordstrom last week. The dining room falls silent. Even Uncle Robert's knife stops mid-slice. You did what? Brielle's voice pitches higher. I spoke with Karen Wilson. Interesting conversation. Dad sets down his fork with deliberate care. She mentioned you've been a store supervisor for 3 years, never an assistant manager. Color drains from Brielle's face. Dad, why would you? Because I wanted to understand. His voice holds no anger, only weariness. Since that dinner at Bellini's, I've been investigating what else I believed without question. Aunt Margaret leans forward, eyes darting between them. What's going on, Thomas? Ask Brielle, Dad says, about her corporate success stories. All eyes turn to my sister. Her fingers tremble against her water glass. The economy's been difficult, she attempts, voice wavering. Everyone stretches the truth on social media. Stretches the truth? Uncle Robert repeats, eyebrows climbing toward his receding hairline. You mean those Facebook posts about your corporate success weren't true? The executive retreats in Vancouver? It wasn't exactly untrue, Brielle defends. I was working toward that position. Aunt Margaret studies Brielle's wrist where a watch glints in the candlelight. So Kelsey paid for this? She turns to me. You've been supporting her? I nod once, unwilling to pile onto Brielle's crumbling facade. For a while. Over $100,000, Dad adds, voice flat, while we all praised Brielle's success and dismissed Kelsey's business as a hobby. Brielle's eyes well with tears, a response I've seen countless times since childhood. The waterworks that charmed teachers, placated boyfriends, and loosened Dad's wallet. Today, they only deepen the damage. I never asked to be compared to Kelsey, she says, voice catching. I just needed help getting established. Established? Uncle Robert snorts. Kelsey built a business from her apartment floor while you spent her money on what designer watches? That's enough, I interject, surprising myself. This isn't about public humiliation. The doorbell rings, breaking the tension. Sarah arrives with a bottle of wine and a bright smile that falters when she reads the room. Sorry, I'm late, she says, sensing the atmosphere. Traffic was terrible on I-5. Kelsey, I brought that article about the outdoor retailers convention. Your new hiking poles got mentioned. Dad pounces on the subject change. Kelsey's company is expanding into 3 new markets next quarter. He announces, pride evident in his voice. My daughter built something remarkable right under our noses. The words land like a physical touch. My father has never described my business this way, never with this tone of undisguised respect. Conversation shifts to safer topics. Jenny's college applications, Uncle Robert's golf scores, the unseasonably dry autumn. Brielle excuses herself to the kitchen, movements stiff. Dad follows moments later. Their voices drift through the swinging door as I help Aunt Margaret arrange pumpkin pie slices on dessert plates. I believed everything you told me. Dad's voice cracks. Made me dismiss your sister's real achievements because they didn't fit what I understood as success. You always expected perfection, Brielle fires back. What was I supposed to do when I couldn't deliver what Kelsey could? You pushed me to compete with her my whole life. That's not true. And you know it. Dad's voice drops lower. We gave you every advantage because we thought you needed more support. Kelsey always seemed so capable on her own. The plates in my hands suddenly weigh 100 pounds. All those years I thought I wasn't enough, when really, they just thought I didn't need them. Brielle bursts from the kitchen, mascara smudged beneath reddened eyes. I need to go, she announces, grabbing her purse from the coat rack. Brielle, we haven't had dessert, Mom protests weakly. I've had enough, my sister snaps, yanking open the front door. Thanks for the lovely holiday. The door slams with enough force to rattle the autumn wreath hanging from it. Through the window, I watch her climb into the Toyota, shoulders shaking as she fumbles with her keys. Dad appears beside me, his reflection joining mine in the glass. Have I been wrong about everything? He asks quietly. I turn to face him, seeing the lines around his eyes deepen with genuine confusion. Not everything, I answer. Just some important things. Back at the table, Sarah passes slices of pumpkin pie while Uncle Robert refills wine glasses. Their conversation drifts around us holiday plans, weather predictions, the Seahawks' chances this season. Dad clears his throat, waiting for the table's attention. I'd like to propose a toast, he says, lifting his glass, to seeing people as they truly are, not as we need them to be. Our glasses meet over the scattered remains of Thanksgiving dinner, and for the first time in years, I feel fully seen at my father's table. The Christmas tree in Dad's living room sparkles with the same vintage ornaments he's hung since I was 5. Voices drift from the kitchen, where Aunt Margaret arranges her signature sugar cookies on Mom's old serving platter. Through the bay window, snow dusts the lawn like powdered sugar. I adjust the lid on the wooden box I brought, wondering if I've made the right decision. 2 weeks before Christmas, and the family has gathered for our traditional pre-holiday dinner. Perfect timing for Brielle's latest performance. Everyone? Brielle stands in the archway between the living room and dining room, her voice carrying that practiced lilt that once fooled everyone. I have an announcement. The room quiets. Uncle Robert lowers his eggnog. Cousin Stephanie stops arranging presents. Dad watches from his armchair, his gaze more measured than it once was. I've enrolled in business courses at the community college, Brielle announces, her smile bright but her eyes tracking reactions. Winter semester starts next month. Aunt Margaret claps her hands. How wonderful, dear. I reach for my sparkling water, avoiding eye contact. It's not cheap, though. Brielle continues, voice softening to that familiar tone that signals a request is coming. The books alone are almost $400. And there it is. The subtle implication hovers in the air like cigarette smoke. Just a little help needed, just this once, especially since it's for education. Dad shifts in his chair. Unlike the old days, he doesn't immediately reach for his wallet. Instead, he watches me, waiting. Aunt Margaret slides onto the couch beside me, her hand patting my knee. Family helps family, Kelsey, especially during Christmas. The scent of her white shoulders perfume fills my nostrils as she leans closer. It's just textbooks, nothing extravagant. Uncle Robert clears his throat from across the room. You've done well for yourself lately. Surely you could spare a little for your sister's education? His glasses slide down his nose as he peers over them at me. Christmas spirit and all that. My throat tightens. The familiar pressure builds the expectation that I'll cave, that I'll write another check, that I'll keep the peace. Brielle stands near the fireplace, her posture carefully crafted to appear humble. The oversized cashmere sweater is new Target, not Nordstrom, her first concession to her actual budget. Her expression reads as someone trying to improve herself, someone worthy of investment. Every eye in the room watches me, waiting for my response. The weight of their expectations presses against my chest. Actually, I say, standing up, I'd like everyone's attention for a moment. I walk to the dining room table and open my laptop. The screen illuminates with the presentation I've prepared. Brielle, I'm glad you're interested in business education. My voice steadies as I turn the laptop toward the room. I have something better than textbook money to offer. But, with a click, the first slide appears the Cascade Trail Outfitters logo, beside REI's familiar emblem. Last week, I finalized a partnership with REI. Cascade Trail Outfitters will have dedicated floor space in 3 of their flagship stores starting in February. I advance the slide. revealing growth charts with an upward trajectory that began precisely when I stopped the transfers to Brielle. Since redirecting my resources back into my business, we've seen 340% growth in just 6 months. Aunt Margaret's mouth forms a perfect O. Uncle Robert removes his glasses entirely. I click through photographs of the new warehouse, smiling employees, packing orders, expanded product lines. So instead of money for textbooks, I'm offering you a paid internship in business operations. I look directly at Brielle. You want to learn business? Learn from someone who built one. The room falls silent. Dad leans forward in his chair, his eyes fixed on the screen displaying my quarterly revenue reports. This is remarkable, Kelsey, he whispers, pride creeping into his voice for perhaps the first time in my adult life. Brielle's face cycles through emotions: surprise, embarrassment, calculation, then outrage. I can't work for my sister, she blurts, cheeks flushing. It would be awkward. Dad stands, his voice firm in a way I haven't heard directed at Brielle before. It's a legitimate opportunity. Take it or leave it. The family witnesses this clear choice: authentic help versus financial enabling, and even Aunt Margaret seems to understand the distinction. Brielle's shoulders slump slightly. When would I start? Flexible hours around your classes, I explain. Real mentorship, modest salary, actual experience you can put on a resume. I'll think about it, she mumbles. That's fair, I say, closing my laptop. Dad approaches, resting his hand on my shoulder. I've been introducing Kelsey to friends as my entrepreneur daughter, he announces to the room, his voice carrying more than necessary. Should have done it years ago. Uncle Robert peppers me with questions about small business loans. Aunt Margaret asks if I can recommend investment options for her retirement account. Cousin Stephanie wants to know if I have any openings in marketing. Brielle retreats to the kitchen, the spotlight having shifted completely away from her for perhaps the first time at a family gathering. Later, as we gather around the table, Dad raises his glass. To the future of our family, may we all learn from Kelsey's perseverance and honesty. Beneath the table, Brielle's hand finds mine, not grabbing, not demanding, but a gentle acknowledgement. When I look at her, something has shifted in her eyes. Something real. I'll start after New Year's, she whispers. If the offer still stands. I squeeze her hand once before letting go. It does. The wooden box I brought sits by my plate inside, a business planner with Brielle's name engraved on the cover, and a key card to the warehouse office. Not a handout, but a hand up. Dad catches my eye across the table and nods once. A small gesture carrying the weight of 30 years of misunderstanding finally set right. The Christmas lights reflect in the window behind him, stars in a dark universe finally aligned. 6 months later, the giant red scissors feel substantial in my hands as I stand before the glass storefront of Cascade Trail Outfitters' first flagship location in downtown Seattle. A crowd has gathered: loyal online customers, local business owners, and a reporter from the Seattle Business Journal who's writing a feature on eco-friendly success stories. Ready? Martha whispers beside me, her silver hair catching the spring sunshine. I nod, scanning the crowd until I find them. Dad and Brielle, standing side by side near the front. Dad gives me a thumbs up. Brielle offers a genuine smile, no trace of the practiced perfection she once maintained. Her honey blonde hair is pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wears a Cascade Trail Outfitters staff polo earned, not gifted, the ribbon parts with a satisfying snick. Applause erupts as photographers capture the moment. Congratulations, the business reporter says, extending her hand. Your company's growth trajectory is remarkable, especially in the last 6 months. What changed? I catch Dad's eye before answering. I redirected resources where they could grow instead of enabling stagnation. 6 months since that Thanksgiving revelation. 6 months of restructured relationships and redirected investments. 6 months of truth. Later that evening, we sit at the same table at Bellini's, where it all began. The same white tablecloth gleams under soft lighting. The same view of Puget Sound stretches like hammered silver through the west-facing windows. But everything else has changed. Dad raises his glass, signet ring catching the light. To my daughter Kelsey, who taught us all what success really means. I don't shrink from his praise. Don't minimize. Just let the words settle where they belong. Brielle, seated beside him in a simple blouse rather than designer labels, raises her water glass, and to learning that appearances aren't achievements. I study my sister, The B+ average in her business courses didn't come easily. Neither did downsizing to an apartment she can actually afford on her Nordstrom salary. Deleting her social media accounts might have been hardest of all those carefully curated galleries of false prosperity. The $105,000 was worth it, I say, surprising them both. Dad frowns. How can you say that, after what Brielle did? Because I learned what I'm worth. I take a sip of Cabernet, letting the tannins linger on my tongue, and what I'm not willing to sacrifice for approval anymore. Back at the warehouse next Tuesday, Dad arrives for his weekly visit. Since January, he's been volunteering his accounting expertise to help local startups navigate tax season. Today, he's brought lunch his famous roast beef sandwiches, the kind he made for our school lunches in the 1,990 seconds. You've got another applicant for your scholarship program, he says, passing me the documentation. The Women in Business Scholarship Fund started small, just enough to cover books and supplies for one community college student. Now it supports 3, funded by a portion of profits I once diverted to maintain Brielle's illusions. Speaking of education, Brielle got that A on her marketing project. Pride softens Dad's voice. She used Cascade's recycled packaging initiative as her case study. I nod, already aware. Brielle had shown me every draft, hungry for feedback, not validation. That evening, alone in my home office, I pack a special order personally hiking poles with custom grips for a customer with arthritis. Some orders I still handle myself. A reminder of where I started. My phone chimes with a banking notification. Transfer received. $500 from Brielle Porter. Memo. First repayment. A small gesture, but one that represents a massive shift. I smile, filing the digital receipt in a folder marked New Beginnings. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't humiliation, it's the quiet moment when the truth finally speaks for itself. When the narrative you've lived under for decades crumbles, replaced by something authentic. When you realize standing firm on your boundaries didn't end relationships, it transformed them into something honest. And in that honesty, something unexpected blooms. Not resentment, not superiority, freedom.